Hello and welcome to A Distracted Miles on episode 34 of the Hobby Hammer cast. I'm joined, as I said, by Miles. Yes, he's taking a drink at that exact time. See, it's all working out perfectly today.
You did that on purpose. You set me up to fail, man.
Yeah, well, I quite literally did, and you're also spotlighted because I wanted to capture that entire process. So I am Max from the Barefoot Miniatures channel, and today we're going to be going over Night Lords. Woo! Yep. That's the spooky bear of Night Lords, rather than
spooky bear.
Rather than like woo, we're doing Night Lords, right? Yeah, Night Lords. This is very low energy, Miles. This is very low energy.
Yeah, that was a terrible introduction. So this is our Halloween special because next week, when we record, Halloween will be over. It'll be the 1st of November, I think. And no one will care about Halloween then. The day afterwards, all the pumpkins go away, all the Halloween decorations go away, and we start barreling towards Christmas. Yeah. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to look at the creepiest legion, the creepiest faction in 40k. Never mind you, Drukhari. Edgelords could keep those. Night Lords is where it's at. It's very rare that we do these, I guess, concentrated specials. Normally we're a lot more waffling our energy, but we've got show notes, we've got pictures, we've got structure. Whether we keep to any of these will be an entirely different matter. But let's start the episode with what we've been up to. Shall we, Max? Or should we stick to Night Lords?
Well, let's very quickly do what we've been up to.
Yeah.
So I have been finishing, but I think since last time. Oh no, I did the Legions Imperialis. I finished my Legions Imperialis army except for the snow on the bases. So I've got 2,500 points of Iron Warriors to go with my Titanicus. And in about an hour and a quarter, I will be recording the first game.
All right. Okay. So that's the deadline for this issue then.
Yeah.
This week, my God, I've been really getting in on DMS miniatures. Since we talked about them last week, I've been looking through his catalogue. My God, the amount of stuff he's got is just incredible. Like all very highly detailed, phenomenal sculpts. So I've been, I downloaded a Shark Lord, I downloaded a Chaos Marine set, or proxies for them. I've been printing those out. I have now a Dreadnought, a box note I'm looking in front of me for my Black Legion project. So for me at the moment, it's all Black Legion, which has led on to a few thoughts about my Old World project. And yeah, so this is where we're going to come to. It's taken a lot longer to produce than I initially thought. And I don't want to give up on the challenge because it's a challenge. Unless you endure, what's the point in doing it? So I want to shift my emphasis slightly. I still want to carry on with the Chaos project, but it's going to be a unit here, a unit there, spaced out amongst commission work and Black Legion, all the rest of like arm wrestling you on a random Friday night. I instead want to go back and reinvigorate my Dark Elf army.
Right.
So I want to rebase them, but they're all unfortunately before the Old World. After the Old World died, I had this Dark Elf army that I spent years developing, nearly every miniature in my collection is like hand converted, like everything in it is bespoke.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been the day after the Old World died when we had that final book, Archaon, released. The shelf they were sitting on collapsed. And I kind of took that as a sign. Like, this is over now. I don't need you. I love you, but you're gone. You're dead.
Okay.
I need to move. I need to move on. So I have this Dark Elf collection that's just shattered. I want to go back, rebase them, add a few licks of paint, and I feel like there's a lot more achievable thing to do to get me playing the game rather than carry on with a project that is a very slow burn for me at the moment.
Yeah, because it's one of the things you've been putting a lot of effort into individual models rather than front rankers versus back rankers.
Yeah.
Like, you've been painting individual Chaos Warriors. And I suppose this is more your... I'm going to say your speed, but like, you're a very focused painter on high-level painting. and that
Yeah,
doesn't work with blocks of units. Do you know,
and
like
I think
everyone
it,
being the same level standard of painting is just not.
and it's because it's my own stuff as well. I
Mm.
think I'm a little bit more leisurely in when I come to this, and when I am painting them, I am taking a lot longer per miniature. Whereas commission work, I can make that mental shift to
Mm.
do them in a very specific timeline. So I'll be painting a Bretonian army in the next couple of months, and I know within a month, 2 months, I'll be able to crack that army out. But for my own stuff, like you kind of linger on it, you think, you overthink, you dabble with other things. So that's where I'm at with the Old World project. I want to get playing the game. I have a Dark Elf army sitting there that just needs a few like licks of paint, and I can reinvigorate them. Maybe add a few characters to them, rejig things. But I do want to start playing this game at the very least. That's where I'm at with the Old World.
Yeah, well, I'm in support of that change
All
in
right.
pace,
I
so
thought
long as
okay.
I've got a counter to it. You were coming up to Manchester mid-January.
I am. Yes.
You, sir, should get that army done for mid-January.
God. Okay, so I do have a list of Christmas projects I want to do. I
Well,
very recently bought
delete
a.
all of those Google
Delete all of them.
notifications.
Where are they?
And
Okay, where's my list?
yeah, get them straight onto the Dark Elves, all of them.
So this past week, I have bought an old Warhammer Quest. Uh, yeah, like there's a lot of old Hammer stuff that's coming up at the moment that I just can't say no to. And it came with 3 of the additional characters, 2 in boxes, and it was the box is in excellent condition. The only thing that's a bit wobbly is the campaign book with a couple of like pages loose in there. Again, I'm going to keep that as my gaming book, and I'll source one over the next few years, like a pristine condition. Where the
Yeah,
hell?
you got a second edition 40k box as well.
Yeah, with a bunch of second edition. Like I have quite a sizable second edition Space Marine army. I have Praetorians that I painted when I was a kid. I have a Chaos army. But the dream is to go back and paint like a Blood Angel army, update the color scheme, but do them like a second edition army. I can't find that list now, but one of my Christmas projects was to do one of the Warhammer quests. I've got a release coming at the end of Christmas. So every year I like releasing one miniature to the community. It's been sculpted, it's been made, it's here with me. It's a like training wheels sculpt for people looking to advance their skills. So
Can you show a
there's
picture
2
of it?
versions. I can't. No, I can't preview until Christmas Day. The first preview will go out of it. But it's a like 28 millimeter scale miniature and the bust version of it. So I want to show people the difference between painting in that scale and the other scale. And it's going to be bundled together. And because of the magic of 3D printing, I can significantly reduce the price. I don't have to send them to get cast. I can just print them off myself now reliably. So yeah, look forward to Christmas Day on that, a little legend. What are the Christmas projects there? Oh, Necromunda. I want to paint up a Necromunda gang. But I guess added to that, Dark Elves. I'll bump that up on the priority list so we can take some photos when I come up to Manchester.
Just throw away photos. We film games here in the video medium. Throw away the rest of those projects, and we'll get some games in with that, as well as Istvan 5.
As well as Istvan 5. Okay, wow.
Yeah. But you don't have to do anything for Istvan 5. You don't have to do anything for Istvan 5. It's done. We've sorted it. Me, Phil, Bill, and Dom have took care of it all. You just have to rock up and look pretty, Miles.
Okay, right. I'll slap on some lipstick. Okay, that's what we've been up to. Should we talk on Night Lords?
Yeah. Let's do it. So,
Night Lords.
Night Lords. Where are we starting? Are we starting fluff? Are we starting painting? Are we starting rules?
Should we start with general impressions? Like, what do you think of the Night Lords? What's been your experience interacting with Night Lords? When you think of Night Lords, what do you think of?
Right. Night Lords. My thoughts immediately go to both the Index Astartes articles and which is 40k, right? We've got Index Astartes articles like 3rd edition, which were absolutely excellent. just
So
initially mapping out the Legion, and in such a way that they contrast to the other legions, I think, within that article.
Mm-hmm.
Less so in 40k when everyone's like batshit, but it sets the groundwork for Heresy, where they contrast with all the other legions in their just approach to war and how they're portrayed. They get poisoned by criminals and become less of a legion and more war bands. Obviously, skinning people takes a lot of precedence within the Legion, but utilizing terror as a weapon is at least in horror films and like horror realms, is such an interesting method for this new Imperium to be built on for like a 20th of the galaxy or whatever fraction it is they conquer. It's an interesting choice, and it plays off really well against other legions such as salamanders with their humane approach. It's a legion. I'm trying to say it's a legion that gets you thinking, Miles.
Burning people to death.
Well, they're the most humane of legions, right? Except for the flamers and the killing of Eldar children, things like that. Massive xenophobia. Whereas the Night Lords are equal opportunities in their hatred of all, and blanket skinnings, mass skinnings, examples made of planets. Go on, what's yours, Miles? What is yours impression?
So I want to give you my first impressions of the Night Lords. So when I was a kid, getting into the hobby for the first time, the Night Lords were nowhere near as popular as they are now. I've seen the shift in popularity of them, in part engendered by the Index Astartes articles, in part by the Night Lords trilogy, which we will talk about extensively later on. But my first impression of Night Lords was they were a little bit of a joke. They were a little bit goofy looking. They were a little bit. The blues I saw them in were slightly too light. The lightning patterns, like the skull, they screamed to me edgelords. Emos. They had that sense of ridiculousness about them, which is, I think, was blown up in second edition. Warhammer, they wanted to emphasize everything. So, like, look at a power fist, look at an orc. Everything is so ridiculously over the top and colorful and bright to catch children's eyes. Whereas in later editions, it's the Night Lords who are plucking out the eyes of those children. So my first impression of Night Lords, slightly goofy. Yeah, slightly, but my God, over the years, you've seen such a sea change with that. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to talk about the lore. And you did mention the Index Astartes article. I think that's a great place to start. There are certainly earlier versions of the Night Lords. We could go back as far as like the Realms of Chaos, where I think they are noted as a Khornate warband or a legion that worships Khorne. But even then, you had the skull and batwing, it was a bat. It was a bat imagery associated with them. Then you roll into second edition, and you get these little blurbs of what the Night Lords are, how they employ terror tactics, and their modus operandi. And there's even a great short story in the back of the second edition codex where an Inquisitor lands on a planet that's been ravaged by a Night Lords warband, and that's really good nightmarish reading for this time of year. But the Index Astartes, I often think of the Index Astartes as the Heresy 0.000001. Because, so the Index Astartes series, they took each of the individual legions, chapters, and they had a full article about them, the history, the development, notable battles. And they did a full 4 or 5 page spread in White Dwarf detailing the Night Lords, accompanied by iconic Karl Kapinski artwork.
Right, so we've got the Karl Kapinski artwork up here. And it's got the Chaos Sorcerer with Scythe on one side, as well as chain axe wielding Terminator on the other.
Yeah.
And it's that classic Chaos Space Marine look. Obviously, Karl Kapinski in his inks really sets both clean but dark tone to those pieces of art that really suit the harsh shadows that Night Lords you want to see across the when it gets translated to models as we go forward. And I imagine you'll want to talk about painting, Miles. It's your bag. So get translated into models with that like very dark crevices and recesses of the armor really comes through nicely through looking at these inks. But what did you want to say about it specifically?
It looks good.
It is good.
It is good. Yeah, I mean, it's creepy. It's atmospheric. The Lord has this like emaciated look. He's not like fully armored. It's again the emphasis of terror. Like you've got people in the background crucified, skinned, and a lot of the visual imagery stems from the old John Blanche 2-page spread in second edition Chaos Codex.
Yeah.
Max, if you would, bring it up on screen.
He's been up on screen for about 4 or 5 minutes. So
God, okay. Yeah. So this sheet really feels like it went on to create the look of all the legions that we know and love today. You have Emperor's Children with their weird fetishes. You have the Black Legion with a weird hobgoblin head, like stuck on the.
Have you done that on any of your?
I have.
Black Legion?
I've taken a hobgoblin head from the New Age of Sigmar range. I've put it on the sergeant of my Devastator squad. Yeah, I have done that. It calls for like undead banners. Yeah, this sheet is such a wealth of great imagery that you can use to style an army. And enshrined here now and forevermore are the bat wings on the helmet.
Is this the first appearance of the bat wings? Do we think
bat wings on the helmet? I believe we've seen the bat imagery associated with the Night Lords in Realms of Chaos, but I think this is the first time we've seen it on a helmet.
Yeah. So if anyone knows different to that, please do put it in the comments so that we can see the original if this isn't the original. And shout at Miles if he's wrong.
Yeah, you can tell me I'm wrong. That's always fun in the comments. And I frequently am wrong. I feel like I'm constantly wrong. It's like parenting. Like whatever you do is bloody wrong.
So this was actually my first introduction to even Chaos Space Marines was. I think this was in the 3rd edition Codex as well as maybe it appeared somewhere else before. But that was my original, other than having the main rulebook for 3rd. The first time I'd sort of seen this sort of stuff, and immediately, I think, after seeing all of these Space Marine Legions, as people may know, I've got a load of Iron Warriors now. But the first thing I got was the Night Lord's Dreadnought, because it was not only in this, but also in the City Fight book that we got hyped up for and covered. There was a battle report that was written in a narrative style with blurbs of like pure narrative, but also sort of like an old non-dice rolly narrative style battle report in there that featured the Night Lords versus Cadian 122nd.
Oh, that's
no,
right.
Cadian 122nd taking over an enforcer precinct that I've got so many copies of that book. I still go back and read like every now and then because that was such. They lend themselves very well to stories, the Night Lords, like depictions of them narratively. You can tell the authors tend to have a lot of fun with them, especially when they're writing them as viewpoint characters and things like that, rather than as bad guys. Because bad guys, they're not concentrated on as much, and I think sometimes lose what they are. But yeah, certainly at this 3rd edition stage, I think they become really strong in how they're depicted. Because that's when we start getting the Chaos Lord with the Power Fist.
Power Fist, yeah. Have you ever seen the backpack of that guy?
No. Right, let's stop for a sec. We can't find it, so Miles, paint us a word picture. You have 1,000 words or less. Less than 1,000 words, you're doing well.
He's got 7 heads and shit in the back.
Okay. Very Night Lord's
aesthetic. It's surprising. It's surprisingly how good it is. I always again I look at the miniature, think the bat wings a little bit too much, but on the really great detailed miniature. And if you did want a painting tutorial on this, there's a guy who I've been binge watching all this stuff, Miniscapes. No, this isn't me. This is me. Miniscapes. He paints this individual miniature, and you can see the 360 of it. He does a wonderful, wonderful job of all second edition stuff. But anyway, law sections. Okay, what else is in the law? Along this time where the Night Lords are starting to become fleshed out, they are becoming a little bit more serious. Terror tactics are starting to come in. In steps ADB, Aaron Dembski Bowden, and his what can we call this? Seminal, iconic, groundbreaking.
His trilogy of books.
His trilogy, his Night Lord trilogy. When people want to get into 40k literature, this is one of the books I recommend, especially if they know what Space Marines are. You're playing Space Marine 2. Oh God, this is awesome. I want more of this kind of stuff. Night Lords, the Night Lords trilogy is a great recommendation of the books. God, what to say about this? They really fleshed out not only sort of like the iconography, the way the Legion approaches the universe, how it's broken down into more warband structures, how they are reavers. In this book, it felt like you were counting every single shell of bolter ammunition. You really felt like these guys were on the edge. It gave a grounding to the Legiones Astartes that I don't think you've seen previously before, or I certainly wasn't aware of. To the scale of putting antiseptic unguents on the connection ports from power armor into the skin. It's those little details that I appreciate so much in his writing, and how it grounds the work and grounds the universe.
Well, it's something that the Night Lord series shows the desperation of the Legion going from being a Legion as a whole, as lots of the Legions were before the Legion Wars during the Scouring, into, as you say, being these warbands and the fracturing. But it also shows the desperation, and it shows the scale of them operating within, say, void warfare, how they operate within space hulks, how they operate within imperial cities. I think in one of the books they have a couple of scenes within like high Gothic cities. And it really fleshes out, as you say, that desperation aspect. And it's definitely worth a read if you happen to be listening to this and you're not into Night Lords at all. It's one of the books, like, say, Eisenhorn or Ravener, that I would say everyone should read to understand more about the universe as a whole. Rather than, like, it's not just a Night Lords book. It just is from their perspective, if you know what I mean.
And it's the first book where you get insights into the mind of Kurz and to the early Legion. The protagonist, Talos Valkyrion, is very much wrapped up with the idea of what the Legion was and what they represented, how they were a terror tactic, how they were a necessary evil in the emergent Imperium to cow populations and, I guess, yoke them to the Imperial ideal. And this character is very idealistic in his outlook. He believes himself, I guess, beyond corruption because of his particular talents for psychic abilities. How he, and we see during the course of the novels how the idealization of Curzon's ideals and the use of terror tactics, how this isn't reflected in other members of the Legion. Zal, in particular, argues with Talos, like, I don't remember this Legion. This idealized version never existed. I was just killing and reaving and doing all sorts of nasty stuff around the universe for no other reason, because I could. So again, within this book, you have the complexity of this juxtaposition between the idealized version of the Legion and what it actually was.
Yeah, well, I think it's for people wanting to collect Night Lords and play with Night Lords, like imagining these visual stories of your own characters within your head. I think it sets up a very interesting framework. Do you know, like, with which to tell those stories? Like, I mean, starting out from, like, minute scale, if you were playing, say, Kill Team, because I know Kill Team has just had, I say just had, like, however long ago, has had that Night Lords Kill Team. Now, they're deep enough that individual characters can have entirely separate arcs, but are still sort of bound together. And that can be shown individually represented on your models through your modeling, through how the painting is. Like you might want to say paint Talos in brighter, more heroic colours versus Zal in more bloody colours. And like we get this even in the, I'm still on the John Blanchard work, but the suggested, say, like inks that are on the golds or reds, like putting reds or greens with shades, can differentiate those characters as deeply as we see in the story set up by ADB. That I think goes really nicely with them. It's the individual aspect, I think, is one of the best. Rather than it being like Ultramarines, where you read the books and it's like there's Theo and he's a bit of a maverick, a bit of a rogue, and then everyone else is like 999 out of 1,000. They're all the same.
Yeah, okay. And this is where we see the difference between 40k lore, 40k stories and 30k stories. In 40k, they're war bands, more individualistic. They're more driven by their own passions and their own ideals. Whereas in 30k, they are legions. They have bigger templates. And I guess nobody, if we're looking at characters and characterizations of legions, the way of understanding the legion, I'd argue, wouldn't be Curse, it'd be Sevatar.
Well, I don't think the Primarchs have their own views of what their legions are, don't they? And I think it's a good point, like, because Sevatar is not adored or idolized, but everyone respects Sevatar within the Legion. And spoilers for the late Heresy, when Sevatar is sort of removed from the Legion, that's when we start seeing the fracturing of the Legion across the Heresy. So, as a viewpoint character understanding the Legion, it's definitely a place that I think paints them well.
Yeah.
When you say as a Legion, though... Oh, right, sorry, go on.
Very, very prominent figure, and you can tell the enduring legacies of these characters, just how many kill team versions of Talos and his first claw are being made even today, again and again and again. Whenever you see a small kill team, it's inevitably always Talos. It's always first claw. Sevatar has an enduring legacy. People still love that character, and weirdly, the traits of that character are all things that ADB doesn't like in characterizations. They kind of like bundle them all together in this character, and people love him. I guess it's a good jumping off point to talk about the Heresy, right? So we've we've briefly jumped over 40k. Let's have a look at Heresy and Heresy lore. So I guess there are two black books where they feature very prominently in. Book 2. Oh God, what's the name of book 2? Massacre.
And then
Massacre. Book 9, Crusade.
Right, book 3, Extermination.
Oh, they're in that.
Yeah,
as well.
book 2 is
so
the start.
Books.
I think it's the book 2 is the start of the drop site, which has like Iron Hands, Salamanders.
Right.
What's the third? Raven Guard. It's Extermination, where we see the Night Lords actually getting rules, and I think maybe they got their colour palette. Did they get the colour palettes in 2 or 3?
Yes. Oh God.
Whichever is one of the two.
One of the early books they got, the color plates, and these color plates are so important for nailing down the visual imagery for artists, for people dealing with it, to look at those color plates and then translate them onto miniature. They're an absolutely invaluable resource for artists such as myself, trying to bring that midnight clad, that infuriating, emotive color scheme that nobody seems to get right. Well, I say nobody, like I can't seem to get right, no matter how many of them I can't paint. But yes, we see those color plates, and you see examples of them, how you have the filthy bronze, you have the midnight hue, that the early color plates especially, they veer away from blue into purples and indigo colors.
Yeah. Do you know what, Miles? We said these were the hardest Legion to paint. If anyone wants to know the second hardest and beyond, watch our tier list on Legion colour schemes. Said these were the hardest to paint. I don't like these. I think they're good jumping off points for like ideas in painting. I don't like these colour palettes. I don't think they're not.
What? Why not?
Right, so when you think of a midnight clad, And you see, it's too broad a term. We said this before. It's too broad of a term.
It's emotive rather than descriptive.
Yeah. In Midnight Clad, do you think of purple or indigo?
I
Or
guess
do
when
you
you see
think of a...
lightning, I guess when you see lightning streaking across the sky, yeah, you do see purple indigos in there. Otherwise,
in there?
I guess midnight clad would be black to the navy blue range. I think of
Yeah. And it's
instinctively.
so hard. Whereas what I like these palettes for are plates. You say plates, don't you? I'll go with plates. You're the learned doctor here. my Miles is the Welshman is much better at speaking English than me. We've got you are. You've got the degree, right?
Yeah.
So we've got all the blood out of the eyes and across the gorget,
so good,
and things like that, as well as seeing the red hand on some of the plates. I can't say it now.
Should we talk about what that red hand represents?
Yes. Yeah, let's go for it, because we're about to see it in some of the models.
Yeah. So the red hands is a old gang, Nostromo gang tradition, where a gangster would tattoo their hands red to represent they have failed their lord in some way, and they are destined to die. But they must serve their lord until the time where they are deemed no longer worthy or no longer worth it, and then they're killed by their lord. And this tradition carried on into the Legion, where legionnaires would stain their vambraces, their hands red, if they've offended their senior commander in any way.
Yeah, and it's something that Kurz implements on the terror troops, isn't it? So when we look at the rules and we get like rules for terror troops, lots of the terror squads that I don't think are much mentioned in the lore, like correct me if I'm wrong, but lots of the terror squads rules wise, and when we see them in the black books, they are criminal elements or not. They're legionaries who have committed crimes against the Legion or have gone too far on populaces. Whatever too far is for the Night Lords.
For the Night Lords, yeah. And later on, you can get like bike gangs in the Book 9 Thramas Crusade. I think it's a great time to actually talk about how you style your army, like in-game, how are they different from, say, like Ultramarines or Sons of Horus. So how do the Night Lords typically play? And here you're very much the learned doctor.
Oh, in Heresy 2, Miles, bigger squads rely on night fighting. Night vision is an excellent rule. So essentially, you have the... For anyone that doesn't know, Heresy 2 rule set of Night Lords expanded talent for murder so that it's in both shooting and combat, you get +1 to wound if your squad is bigger than the enemy squad, with vehicles counting as 10. So that combined with their ability to take night vision as part of their Legion war gear has made them... And night vision, meaning that you can see a limited distance at night and you ignore shrouded saves so someone can't evade as one of the reactions, cuts out quite a lot of rules that have been introduced in Heresy 2. Makes you not scared of the dark as well, so you don't take the -1 leadership. I would say, in my experience, like having tried to play Combat Night Lords quite a few times with a borrowed army off MetaView Dom, they've not worked that well for me. However, what has worked very well is larger shooting squads where you have your 10 people that can shoot at range with night vision with an apothecary, and then you can outdistance and outnumber other units and shoot more effectively. It's something that is really successful because it's based on your own list to gain that rule. So although you don't know how big your opponent's squad's going to be, you can usually roughly estimate. So the same heavy weapons squad, I want 10 plus a character so that I go to 11 and then outnumber an enemy tank. Now I've essentially got the Iron Warriors rules on the squad that needs it to outrange them. So they've weirdly become, I would say, in Heresy 2, the shooting-based Legion. As well as I think they've got one of the best drop capabilities out of any Legion. So it actually does quite fit their Terror Assault rules. I'm not going to say it's the best list ever, but
Mm-hmm.
stacking night fighting from step terror assault, which is an automatic thing, turn 1 and rolled for turn 2 onwards, rather than the normal rules of rolling turn 1. You deep strike night raptors with things that cause fear, because they can take trophies of judgment on their characters. Night fighting's a -1, so pinning tests on -2, and also having terror squads that have shell shock 1 on rotor cannons at night time with trophies of judgment from deep struck raptor squads that can then assault pinned units and get talent for not talent for murder. What's it called? They get +1 attack by charging a pinned squad. It's just really successful and comes together really nicely, so long as you pick on the right units. So it's a really I would say that upper half.
Sure.
We need to do a tier list for the legions, Miles. We need to do a tier list.
Oh god! I guess, well, broadly speaking, then they like attacking smaller, weaker units. They like stabbing you in the back in the dark, and they are generally quick moving. So they generally have more fast moving troops, terror squads in big, large units.
Yeah,
they're bullies. Bullies who like preying on weaker foes.
Yeah, but and I think it fits as well with their legion weapons. Like, they struggle quite a lot against 2-up saves, in my experience. So, if anyone
who
know,
can hit them back, anyone who can hit them back, they don't like.
Yeah, essentially.
And I think this is typified more than anywhere else in Book 9 Crusade, and this book details the Thramas Crusade, where the Dark Angels take on the Night Lords, who are very heavily entrenched in the Thramas system. A great resource for Night Lords players because it fully details the Legion again. It gives you an overview of several different army lists, even though the rules, I guess, technically are defunct now. It gives you ideas on how to theme an army if you did want to do something just a little bit different from the standardization that you see elsewhere. I guess alongside, I don't want to go into the minutiae of the Thramas Crusade, but I do want to mention a lot of these conflicts have, I guess, historical correlations. And when I read this book, just so happened I was watching the Ken Burns documentary about the Vietnam War, and I saw a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah.
How the Vietnamese, when they were encountered overwhelming troops from the American side, would just simply dissipate, and they go into because Vietnam is not it's landlocked and there are different countries around it, so they were free to go into places like Cambodia where the Americans could not go, otherwise they'd be and anyway, it felt very similar. Whenever the Night Lords were confronted by a sizable Dark Angel contingent, they would simply dissipate and they coalesce around weaker foes to try and pick them off. And it was this conflict didn't really have much of an overall difference to the legions who were engaged in it in the fighting. They didn't deplete them massively. They did string them up, but what it did have a massive influence on was on the civilian populations of Thramas, which was practically wiped out in this conflict. Which I guess feeds into the terror aspect of them. And I guess, okay, so other short stories that you can look at. God, there are a plethora of them. Since ADB came on the scene, this has been one of the most widely written about legions/factions because people got it. People got it after that. The motivations are understandable. When we talk about the Sons of Horus, why exactly did they fall to chaos? Or the word bearers, their thinking might be a little more abstract and idealistic, whereas the Night Lords, terror tactics, butchery, and war crimes, awesome stuff.
I think it's one of the there's this thing across Heresy legions where it's the traitor legions. I'd say especially have very nuanced reasons for being on the side that they're on. Is taking out bad books is a separate thing, but all of them from the start have had at least good nuanced reasons for their fall. But I'm going to say to chaos, but fall to the Heresian side.
Traitor side.
And yeah. So the Night Lords having the reason of already having been basically excised and censured by the Imperium, and then seeing the traitor side as a way that they can continue doing what they were already doing. Was sort of like legalized terror tactics. And
Legalized, yeah.
Yeah, because their fall to chaos consists essentially, or maybe not fall to chaos in some aspects of the Legion, consists of them going too far with the terror tactics and getting censured by the High Lords of Terror and told to return to Nostromo to await judgment. And correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. Everyone out there as well, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. They return to Nostromo, and obviously Kurz has seen Nostromo fall entirely back into lawlessness, and that then starts the arc that we see within the ADB novels of questioning Kurz questioning his own methods of utilizing terror tactics. And it's a really, maybe not believable on its galactic scale in Chaos Gods, but it's a believable reason of why that character would choose to be on the side that they were. And it's written really successfully, and then through, as you say, in like the Thramas novels and things like that, we see.
So we got Savage Weapons. Sorry, we've got Savage Weapons. We got the Dark King, Throne of Lies. We got Child of Night, Prince of Crows, principally. But Savage Weapons, I want to give a special shout out to, because this is one of the earlier short stories. I think this is the first time we saw the lion, or one of the first instances we saw the lion in the Horus Heresy. We'd wondered how he'd be depicted, was characterization. And this sees Kurz and the lion meet on a planet to discuss terms. Kurz is trying to woo the Dark Angel Primarch onto the side of the traitors. And there's a fantastic conversation between Sevatar and Corswain, where Sevatar's baiting Corswain, and the Night Lord's constantly baiting. And then, read the book yourself. It's fantastic. Well, read the book, read the short story yourself. Fantastic characterization of both of them.
Well, what characterization does it show us of the Night Lords that you wanted to draw aspect?
They're bullies. They're intolerable bullies. They wind up merchants. They pick at you constantly. They're arrogant.
Yeah, and that's something you admire, obviously, within the world.
It's okay. This is a question, because I would love to paint a Night Lord's army. Like, I would freaking love to do a Night Lord's army. But I unfortunately just won't have the time for it. So if you did want to have one commissioned, get in touch. I'll give you quite good discounts on it. But what is so endearing about this Legion, about this faction? Why is it so popular in the fandom? For a legion or faction of monsters who commit the most atrocious crime, because that is their thing, right? It's not simply of culling a civilization or culling people, but they have to make examples. They have to do the most horrific stuff. Not to serve chaos gods, to serve. Why do people enjoy them so much? What is it about this faction that's so enduring? Why are they so popular?
Is this another open question, or is this one that I should answer?
Yeah, open question. Open question to the fans. Hopefully you can
leave it in the comments below. I think is what you
leave in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a good question. Like, it's one that obviously it shoots the spectrum of just from, I really enjoy this. I'm going to say surface level of the Night Lords, down to that nuance, obviously, of their different motivations that we started talking about at the Warband level, Talos level. That it would be interesting to see whether everyone that likes Night Lords falls down on the I just like skinning end, or I like the nuanced story end.
Yeah. I guess that's a great jumping off point to have a look at some modelers' work. Let's have a look at the stuff the community is doing with Night Lords, and we can question them, like, what's wrong with you?
Right. Well,
ultimately.
I will get them prepped. Right. So the first one that I've got pulled up is Jake D's 40k Night
Yeah.
Lord, which utilizes is a combination of bits. So he's got like Mark 5 torso with a Mark 4 head on one of the newer Chaos Space Marine kits versions of legs. And I think it really brings out the warband aspect that we see in ADB's books, where they've got scavenged pieces of armor, obviously like the white that you wouldn't normally see on a Night Lord, although it is a learned doctor. It emphasizes the patchwork nature that they're going through as a warband. So I think it's a really successful model in conveying that elements of
And
character.
when you scroll through his feed, it's wall to wall, awesome 40k Night Lords. I know Max and I do fall into this habit of emphasizing more the heresy side of the hobby, just through the echo chamber we're in. But scrolling through this guy's work, yeah, he has. I think he uses just the right amount of skulls, skinned stuff, and skinned effigies, and lightning bolts. This is something I want to talk about, like lightning bolts on your miniatures. It's like blood splatter with world eaters. Less is very much more. You put them on prominent areas on your guys, it sparks the entire army. You overuse it, it looks dreadful.
Yeah, now this throws up a question to you, because I've got my own opinion on it.
Oh, okay.
And I'll state it while giving my question. So I think Night Lords are one of the legions that you can, as a Heresy player, utilize more of the 40k bits. Like, same with World Eaters, I think. But yeah, it's one that you can utilize more of those 40k ornate over the top bits because of the Night Lords basically decorating their armor with terrifying things. Like, is that something that you have found?
Yeah, absolutely. So the new Kill Team box set, I think, would make an excellent conversion basis for Heresy, because the Heresy we think of being slightly more cleaner, more sterile. The armor is just armor. The equipment is just equipment. It doesn't have this like 10k-year-old significance to it, where the individual legionnaires have individualized them. They're a slightly more utilitarian outlook. But I think it's quite boring doing that, just taking the Mark III Marine, and then you do want to individualize them slightly. So yeah, absolutely. And when you look at especially the Chaos Marine set in 40k, the spiked barbed armor lends itself well to especially like veteran units in 30k. When you look at other manufacturers, especially DMS miniatures, I know we've mentioned him already, but he does like a lot of good Night Lord stuff. It's very popular amongst 3D manufacturers as well, 3D sculptors, the Night Lords, because they have such a strong imagery. You look back at second edition, all the way back, the majority of the tactical squads, the Dreadnought, the Terminators were painted in Night Lord colors. Whether this was because the artists involved were interested in Metallica at the time, or whether because it's just a badass color scheme to paint. The blue, the filthy bronze, the lightning strikes, the blood, it's very evocative, right? It's a very engaging. I think I'm answering a question we'll ask ourselves at the end of this. It's a very evocative scheme to paint.
Yeah, well, let's go on to the next one, in which we've actually got a piece of artwork by Aiktan. I'm going to go with that, where we've got a Praetor with Eldar pistol as well as a Thunderhammer in like sort of 40k Night Lords jump pack.
Yeah.
As well as having obviously Grizzly trophies of judgment, as well as flayed skin shoulder pauldron cover cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this image because you can see the corruption. When you pan out, you can see like he's slightly warped. Now, in the trilogy, in the Night Lord trilogy, again, Talos saying we are above this. We are not chaos infested. We're not chaos corrupted. But everyone in this universe is deluded. They are self-aggrandizing and they are not very good at self-reflection. And I've had this argument more than once that, the Night Lords aren't corrupted. They absolutely 100% are. And you can represent them like this, possessed. And you can go into the spectrum if you want. I think it'd make very good looking forces. Yes. And I love the Midnight Blue armor on him. It has the scratchiness, the weathered effects. Just a very evocative image.
Next, we've got Critimonum Paints with the Night Lord's blue armor tutorial that he's done with this very vivid blue that still works successfully for that. It reminds me of the colour plates within the black books, actually.
It's a really good tutorial. I wanted to highlight. I wanted to bring attention to this. It's a very good color scheme, and it's quite simple to pull off as well. You don't need to bring in like a billion different colors. You don't need to agonize over it. If you wanted something that's punchy, looks great, bang, use this.
Bang. Done.
Bang. Bosh.
Before we get into Sillet Bang style references, let's go into Torquathor with, I'm going to guess, Night Lord's Praetor with the chain glaive
of some kind.
Yeah, however we'd term the character. Just really, really successful, real nice highlights. Gradients between the darkness and light.
Yeah.
Looks
I
like
think it's the
piece
best
of art.
painted. Yeah, I think it's the best painted Night Lord I've seen. It's diabolically good how he has. So if you want to see, or you want a feeling of just how good this paint job is, look at the shoulder pad. So you have the lightness on top, descend into the darkness, and then you have a bounce reflection on there with the orange. So the artist is imagining an off-camera, an off-miniature event that's reflecting onto the armor to display the shadows. Absolutely masterful work. Absolutely masterful work.
We've got NRN paints, Night Lords. This is a 40k Terminator with lightning claws. That's, I think, a really good example of it's a high level, like a large amount of lightning, and I think it's done really successfully because of how delicate each individual piece of lightning is. Like it's dancing across the armor. It looks really believable for that lighting source version of armor, rather because this is something that we've not said. There's two thoughts to how the Night Lords actually have lightning on their armor. One is that you've got a lightning generator on the armor, and that actually crackles across the armor. Or second, you've got painted streaks within universe on the armor that are just representing lightning going across it. And I think this is a really good example of the first one of actual light sources.
Do you want to stop it?
So we've pulled up to represent it, the other style, physically, your Black Legion model.
Yes, and the full tutorial for this is going up on Halloween. In the descriptions they talk about, is the lightning painted on or is it crackling across the armor? You get different representations. So I did want to try this on my converted Night Lord 2 Black Legionnaire, just to try it out. It's a silly idea. I'll never do it again, but it was fun to do at least once before they all break off. Okay.
Do you know what? Before we go on to that, I am going for Heresy 3 whenever that. I've been watching rumour videos on the tubes.
Yeah, same.
And I'm going to, for Heresy 3, include Night Lords in... Like, I'm going to do a vote of what I should do for Heresy 3 as a Legion.
Okay.
Night Lords with actual represented pieces of lightning might be going on to there.
It's silly. As soon as you pick it up, it's going to shatter. It's going to break. Silly idea.
I don't know, man. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. It'll be fine. We have the technology, but do we have the design? Right. We'll find out. Okay, next up, we've got MetaView. Now, this is Dom, who is on the Istvan 3 campaign that's coming up on my channel. Barefoot Miniatures, I'll say it again. So that's going to come up. But Dom lent me his Night Lords, including this Praetor, Dana White, And I just really like his approach to Night Lords. It's why I begged him to get his Night Lords off him, because it has that ornamentation style. Like, we've seen some extremely good paint schemes. Now, what I like about Doms is the ornamentation of the modelling and just difference in character between the different Marines, like including the tarot cards, flayed bits of skin on models, and just thought it was really characterful. So begged him for usage on channel. Right, Miles, we've got your pick, Heresy Gremlin.
Yes. So the two accounts coming up are my favorite Night Lords, and I it's hard to pick between them, but yeah, Heresy Gremlin. He is a stalwart Night Lord collector. His feed is full of the most gorgeous, gorgeous Night Lords that I continually reference and continuously drool over. Well worth a follow for nothing but wall-to-wall savagery. Yeah, phenomenal artist. Love his stuff.
Yeah, and it's... Although, again, saying about this in Midnight Clad, it's not an... Although it's a very vivid blue, again, it's not it doesn't scream Ultramarines when you look at that blue. The colours balanced really well within this very vivid blue. Like, hard to describe when you've not got the words of a painter. But yeah, also don't hate that choice, Miles. Really like it, especially with the glow from the power axe. And finally, we've got Loyalists Are Boring.
We have indeed. Yeah. Again, great style. Like, the blue is a lot more desaturated, a little bit more like the color plates we see in Heresy, where it looks like the Night Lords aren't really too fussed about the degradation of their armor. I mean, it's certainly clean. It's not Death Guard levels of clean, but they haven't quite got the luststone polish, or instead they're seen like in battle. I really love the contrast he's managed to produce between the shadows and the lights. And again, it doesn't scream Ultramarines. It's very hard to, well, as soon as you start adding highlights to blue, they do start straying into the Ultramarine realm, and he managed to stay away from that. And again, a account just full of wall-to-wall awesome Night Lord stuff to explore and enjoy.
Cool. Right. Well, that brings us to the end of our Night Lords coverage. Yeah. So
yeah, I do want to leave the listeners with a question. I want to leave you whether you want to answer this or not. I think it's more. I think the question is more important than the answer, unless you commented below, in which case your answer is much more important. What makes this faction so popular? What makes it so engaging? Why do people who get involved in the Night Lords seem to not really move beyond them and really get wrapped up in them? And I don't want to say it makes it their entire personality, but why is it that Night Lords enthusiasts are so enthusiastic about this force and they identify so closely with them? Make us understand. Just tell us what's wrong with you, okay? Tell us what trauma you've had in your childhood that makes you like this.
I'm going to add another question. And tell us what we have missed out that is key to our understanding of Night Lords. Because I've dabbled, Miles has dabbled. I am a Night Lords appreciator, but I would really like to know in case I end up doing this army. So let us know that in the comments. And we'll catch you next time. Yeah. Cheers for watching. See you in a bit.
Oh, beautiful.